In Counting Cars, Danny Koker is painted as some sort of spontaneous legend who just does anything on a whim. He might just be driving around one day and see a car he likes. He then stops his car, approaches the owner, and pays for it right there. Incredible, right?
Last year, I met Chris at my club Vamped when he showed up in a gorgeous Cadillac Coupe de Ville.
And to me, this is the car that says Detroit.
If I gave you like 25 grand in cash, would you consider selling this car?
But here's just one weird thing about Counting Cars that you didn't know. That scene and scenes like that are scripted. Think about it. If you're the owner of a car, would you like someone to walk up to you with a TV crew and strong arm you into selling your car? You would probably tell them to put off the camera first, right? Anyway, scenes of Danny displaying incredible spontaneousness like this may look great for the camera, but that's not how things go down in the real world at all. And you might not know that if you're watching Counting Cars on TV. When we watch a show on TV, we, generally speaking, only know a little bit of what truly goes on when the camera is not rolling and the lights are off. But sometimes we get to learn a few things about what the show is really about, and that can be quite startling. In today's video, we'll be taking a hard and long look at Counting Cars and the weird things that you certainly did not know about the show. Production is chaotic. When you watch Counting Cars, you kind of get a sense of controlled chaos. Like, you know that things are just dying to go wrong, but there is some mystic force keeping them from going wrong. Well, if you thought that while watching the show, you're probably right. The production of Counting Cars is extremely chaotic, according to many of the technicians who have worked on the show. Filming Count's Customs is an extraordinarily chaotic experience. Many of them even say that they have never seen anything as chaotic as filming the show. First of all, there are way too many people always working in the garage. Danny Koker employs about 45 people who work in the garage, and about 15 projects are going on at any given time. Now, under ordinary circumstances, this would not be a huge problem. Garages all over the world are busy, and it's not rare to see a huge garage working on multiple projects at the same time. The problem, though, has to do with filming everything going on in the shop at the same time. That is the very difficult and chaotic part, because it means that there could be up to 4 camera crews in that garage at the same time, and each camera crew must keep the other ones out of its frame. Thankfully, a lot of post-production editing keeps the show sane. It also stops everyone from seeing the madhouse that Count's Customs could be. Danny does not care about politics hurting his business.
I'd like to be rewarded for being successful. In that rewarding, I can then pass that on and create more jobs for more people. And those things we should be doing as a small businessman.
In the run-up to the 2016 elections, Danny Koker spoke about his political views on the show, and many thought that part was scripted. Despite attracting a lot of bad press, many thought it was just a move made to increase the show's viewership. But here's the thing. Danny Koker really has those political views, and he didn't express them just to attract attention. He was warned by the show's producers that sharing those views may dent his business. But did Danny care? Of course he didn't. He said what he had to say and made sure it was released. That shows some level of courage. Danny can't work on his late dad's cars. Danny Koker can work on almost every car you bring him. It doesn't matter what the car looks like, what's wrong with it, how bad it looks, what year it's from, or even what has been done to it. His name is Danny Koker, and he works on them all, except for his late dad's cars. Danny Koker was really close with his father, and the death of the old man hit him hard. According to Danny, whenever he tries to fix his father's old collection of cars, he remembers all the good times he spent with his dad. The grief that this recollection brings him is usually so severe that he can hardly work anymore. Danny is wrong. A lot. Danny Koker is not the kind of guy to come out and say he's infallible, but from the way he talks, you kind of get the idea that he knows what he's talking about. And most of the time, he does know what he's talking about. He might not have a degree in engineering, but he knows more about cars than 99.99% of human beings. But this does not mean he knows everything about cars. Unfortunately, it seems like Danny himself forgets this, as he sometimes says the wrong stuff. Danny says so much wrong stuff that there are YouTube compilations that expose the wrong stuff he says. For example, on one occasion, Danny claimed that 1954 was the year Chevy started making the Corvette and that it was a failure as only 600 were made, but that's clearly wrong. The vehicle was first made in 1953 and 300 of them were made. In the following year, several 100,000 were made. That is not a failure by any stretch of the imagination. Count's Customs is not a paragon of perfection. Ordinarily, this should not be weird or surprising to you, but Count's Customs has painted such a picture of perfection that you would probably be shocked to know that garage messes up sometimes. Counting Cars may make Count's Customs look like this exemplary organization that satisfies all its customers, but that's a myth. Just like every other organization, Count's Customs gets bad customer reviews. When you watch the show itself, all the customers who get their cars repaired at the garage are always ecstatic. They usually cannot quite believe their eyes after they get their cars. But here are two things you need to know. The show only shows you what it wants you to see. It does not show you the customers who are horrified with the job done on their cars or the ones who come back a week after the cars have been fixed to complain. According to reports, Count's Customs gets as many bad customer reviews as any organization. Sometimes people complain that their car is falling apart mere weeks after getting repaired, and others even complain that they do not like what has been done with their cars. Some customers have even complained about the size and location of the garage. Another one was disappointed that it looked a lot smaller than advertised and that the staff who work there are rude. No cameras in the home. A lot of reality shows pride themselves on their realism and their ability to uncover every single personal detail. However, Counting Cars is markedly different because it doesn't promote itself on those terms. And the show does not do that because Danny Koker has one particular rule: no cameras in his family home, ever. That's right, if you've been watching the show for a while, you would notice that Danny never allows cameras in his family home. There are literally no shots of the inside of his home. We do not even know what the inside of his house looks like. The reason for this rule is simple. Danny Koker might look like a ruffian who just wants to fix cars, drink beer, and listen to metal, but he is professional. That means he wants his life and his work to be as separate as possible. And you know what? We can absolutely respect that. Danny Koker is pretty rich. Again, this would not be weird to you if Counting Cars did not try so hard to obscure it. I mean, let's consider the facts. Danny Koker is the owner of an establishment as huge as Count's Customs, and that institution probably runs through thousands of dollars in revenue every month. In addition to that, he's an executive producer and host of one of the biggest car shows on the planet. He also owns a bar and grill, which is an extra stream of revenue coming in. And we must not forget about his collection of expensive cars. So, ordinarily, you would assume him to be a pretty wealthy guy. But does Danny Koker behave like a millionaire? No. He wears faded jeans, worn out boots, and shirts that have probably seen better decades. But here is the truth that Danny Koker does not want you to know. He's actually worth over $15 million. To put in contrast just how rich he is, rappers DaBaby, Lil Baby, and Lil Pump combined have a reported net worth of around $16 million. About the headband. Danny Koker is always seen wearing a headband, and a lot of people have theorized why. Some say it's because he has a scar from an accident there, and others argue that his headband is his good luck charm. Others even say it's nothing important and it's merely a style preference. However, all these theories are false. The truth is that Danny Koker wears the headband for the simplest reasons. He wants to hide his receding hairline. Now, that is one weird thing you probably didn't know.